Now, as a financial planner, I speak to people day in, day out around their finances. And it doesn't matter if this person's earning £5,000 a year or £500,000 a year. The amount of money you earn doesn't have a direct impact on your relationship with money. Now, what I mean by that is that when people think about money, they think about kind of spreadsheets and numbers, when in reality, the relationship you have with money is a lot deeper than that. And that's because we often attach a lot of our own self worth to money. And this stems from I suppose, the messages we were given as a child. Now, what I mean by that is that you as an adult will have a certain money belief, and that will generally fall into one of two camps. One will be a spender, and one will be a saver. And you've probably heard sayings in the past like money doesn't grow on trees, or you need to spend it whilst you can. And a lot of that will be linked back to the messages you were given as a child around money. So, although money is obviously quite rightly about numbers and spreadsheets, your relationship with money is formed from a very young age. And some studies show that this can be formed by the age of 6 or 7. So, if you think back to, as I say, how your kind of parents or carers were with you when they were communicating around money, even as I say, in very early ages, kind of, 3, 4, 5, 6, that sticks with you for a long time. I was going to say life, but that it's very difficult for you to change your mindset around money after that age unless you really put some deep work into it. So I think the point I'm trying to make is you can put the best budget, have the best spreadsheet in place and still not stick to it. And this isn't a thought of your own. This is because of the money beliefs that you've inherited as a child. Now, I think we all know that social media doesn't help with this either. It's very easy for you to go onto Instagram, go onto Facebook, go onto TikTok, and see people living these, what looks like on the face of it, amazing lives, all the cars, all the trips, that sort of thing. And that can be very difficult for people to handle, I suppose. And I'm guilty of it myself. It's very difficult. Even, and this is a point I want to make. Even as someone that works as a financial planner, you don't get some sort of guard against these things and looking at people kind of living a certain way and be immune to it. It still impacts you. But I think, as I say, it's very difficult to manage that. Now, the thing I would say is that you don't know the ins and outs of how this person lives. You don't know kind of where they've gotten the money from or anything like that. And I'm not sure what the statistic is in the UK, but I know in the US that it's something like well over half of the population wouldn't be able to afford a £1,000 medical emergency bill. So the point I'm trying to make is that these people that are living all these, what looks like fantastic lives, you don't know how they funded those. For all you know, they could be 20 grand in credit card debt. Now, the other thing to think about is that if that person isn't in debt, you still don't know the background to their life and how they're living it and their finances. So, a very classic one that we see, particularly around kind of people in their 20s and 30s, is property. And I think, people can often see people buying certain properties and think, what am I doing wrong? Why can I not afford that? But again, you don't know the background to their financial situation. They could have been gifted money from their parents, they could have had an inheritance. You don't know the backstory of that. So I think this goes back to what I was saying around you need to focus your finances on your goals and your beliefs and what you want to do with your life. Now, clearly that is not easy to do. I understand that. But I think you almost have to reverse engineer your current situation to say, okay, well, what are my financial goals and what are my values in life, I suppose. Now, one might be, as a financial planner, we see this quite a lot. People want to retire by the age of 55, for example. So if that's a goal of yours, you need to be putting the building blocks in place and allocating your money in a way that's going to get you there. So I think you just need to get really clear on what your financial goals and your financial values are, because that then in turn should help you work out how you want to be spending your money. And that's a big part of my job. I think a lot of people, when they think of a financial planner or a financial advisor, just think, okay, this person's going to tell me the best thing to invest in, or they're going to put together a budget for me and help me stop spending so much or stop saving more than I need to, something like that. But in reality, a lot of what we do is, I suppose I would liken it to a therapist in some ways, because we're helping people work through what their money value and their money belief is that they've inherited, and saying, okay, well, that's where you are now. This is your belief around money. So first and foremost, we kind of work through that with them. But then secondly, we want to put a financial plan in place for them, which is going to help them reach their goals and their objectives. Because there's no point us saying, we think you should do X, Y, and Z because that's going to make you the most money, because that may not be aligned to what they want. So I suppose a good example of this would be, it's very tax efficient to make pension contributions. So if we're looking at things from purely a tax efficiency perspective, we would probably say to someone, you want to put this lump sum into your pension because it's going to be really tax efficient for you. Now, if one of their goals is they want to retire at age 50, that's going to be no good, because they won't be able to access that money until they're at least 57. So whether you're working with a financial planner, a financial advisor, or you're doing this on your own, that's why it's really important to start with, what is it that I actually want? Because without having that plan in place, it's going to be very difficult for you to get clear on what you want to be doing with your money. So I think having a financial plan is, I suppose, one piece of the jigsaw. I think the other piece is the emotional side of things, and that's more around, when you are, for example, putting together a budget, working out and saying, what benefit am I getting from spending money on X, Y, or Z? Or how does saving that money this month go towards me reaching my financial goals? So I think doing that just gives you a bit of clarity around what it is you're doing, and a bit of pause for thought, rather than, I suppose, just operating on autopilot and saying, okay, well, I've historically spent, I don't know, £300 a month on eating out, and just saying, okay, cool, that's just what I'm going to be doing moving forward. But I think you kind of need to take a step back and say, okay, well, that's what I've done historically, which is, it's fine, but is that going to help me reach my financial goals? Now, I'm not saying you need to completely strip back and spend no money and save it all, but I think the question you want to be asking yourself is this aligned with my financial goals? And is allocating my money in this way going to help me get there or hinder me getting there? So I hope you found this video useful. My name's Ben. I'm a financial planner, and I think the purpose of the video really was to kind of get across that, money isn't all just about numbers and spreadsheets. You need to think a lot more kind of psychologically and emotionally around money and the values you attach to it. And hopefully, if you implement some of these kind of suggestions that I've put forward in this video, you will feel a lot more in control of money, have a lot more clarity around what you want, and hopefully have some more financial peace.